I'm Jonny Grey. I'm Research and Conservation Officer for the Wild Trout Trust, and this afternoon I'm stood on the bank of Malham Beck. I've been working on Malham Beck for a number of years now with various different landowners. This is part of a partnership project with Yorkshire Wildlife Trust called the Upper Aire Project, and it's one of the becks that, even though it's up in the headwaters and people assume it has been untouched by man, it has actually been quite heavily modified over the centuries. So there are straightened sections, dredged sections, bits where there are walling instead of banking, what's called stone pitching up here. So we've been working in various reaches of this little beck to try and renaturalize it and get it back functioning as ecologically sound as possible. In the background you can see how artificially constrained the channel width was. On the left-hand side of the channel, there was actually stone pitching walling along that bank, which kept the channel a consistent width. What we've done here is remove that walling and felled the dead ash on the right-hand bank into the water, forcing the flow into the left-hand bank, causing erosion, but increasing the sinuosity. So again, in the background, you can see some fairly large boulders that were part of the stone pitching down the left bank, and this tightly constrained piece of channel, before I started working on it, was about 3 feet deep and incredibly fast flowing. What we've done is taken those boulders away and actually lifted the bed using that boulder material, and now you can see that with the vegetation on the right bank causing some restriction in the flow, it's actually forcing more of the flow into the left bank and again creating sinuosity. In the foreground this time you can see how the beck has been constrained to about 3 meters wide. By felling in some of the dying ash on the left-hand bank, now looking upstream, and leaving that in the channel, we've forced the flow out to the right and made the channel much wider at this point, so giving some diversity in the channel proportions instead of all being one shape and form. There are relatively few individual trees that we can work with here. Quite a few of these are actually dying ash trees. This is a willow that I've managed to encourage or tickle a few of the branches over to fall into the channel, and hopefully you can see the sort of scour pattern in the bank from when the flow is much higher. It's creating a great deal of flow diversity around that structure and diversifying the in-channel habitat. And tucked underneath the main trunk of that same tree is another branch that I've folded around, and that is trapping lots of lovely woody debris, which is creating a raft, a bit of cover for adult fish above it and fry on the downstream side. They can tuck into that shallow water in a nice protected area. Part of the aspirations of the landowner at this particular site on Malham Beck was to re-wet this meadow. Unfortunately, the artificial constraints that were put on the beck in decades or centuries ago have actually constrained the water to the channel and made the meadow quite dry. So what we've been doing is taking away the artificial embankments upstream behind me and allowing the beck to spill out under spate flow events, flood events after heavy rainfall much more regularly, so the water can spill out across this meadow and make it a good deal wetter. One of the techniques that I've been using on several of the becks around here is to just very subtly nick the artificial embankments. So hopefully you can see the slight lowering of the bank in front of us, allowing that water to spill out onto the floodplain much more readily during or after rainfall events. And of course that takes the sting out of the channel, allowing gravel and other useful substrate to remain there and be available for trout to spawn on or invertebrates to live in. A lot of the ideas that we've turned into a project here stemmed from a walkover of the whole Upper Aire system, and we've been working with particular landowners to put those into action. So if there are any particular ideas for watercourses on your land, then that's the sort of thing that we conservation officers at the Wild Trout Trust can help with. Thanks to our partnership with the Environment Agency, we can offer free advice to landowners in England and at subsidised rates in other parts of the UK and Ireland to make your watercourse a better place for its inhabitants and for the land surrounding it. So if you'd like some of that advice, please get in contact via the details on our web pages.